The heroic deeds, and I don't want to embarrass you, but we are obviously following it so carefully, being fairly close to it also, was it true, the stories we were getting, that you were next in line to catch the flight home from Bali, but you refused the position saying this person's in better, greater need than me and the likes? Can you tell us some of those heroic sacrifices that you actually did stand aside for?
Yeah, look, Dermot, I was like many, was in the Sanglar Hospital, which was the local hospital in Denpasar. And look, for whatever reason, I was in a small room there, which had been an office, obviously, and there was 4 or 5 people in there. So just for whatever reason, I wasn't out in the open like I've seen images of so many others. I was very fortunate. I had a young couple from Sydney who were living in Singapore at the time that spent a lot of time with me for whatever reason that day. And obviously, I knew I was in a bad way, but I had comfort and I had support. I'm not sure who the other people were in my room, but they had no one, and they sounded like they were in excruciating pain. So when it did come that time, there was a bit of discussion around being flown out early on one of the earlier planes, but I felt because I had support and comfort there that I could probably just wait a little bit longer. Now I understand a lot more about burns, Dermot. It wasn't probably a wise choice, and I should have jumped on the first one and got home. But that was the situation. I thought there was people worse off in that room I was in particular. So I just waited, and like I said, I had tremendous support from a young couple with me.
And can you explain to us then an understanding about burns for Joe Public, the reinfection of what the burnt flesh does?
Well, that's the biggest issue, obviously, is the infection. And that hospital we're all in predominantly. They did an amazing job, but you're going back, what are we now, 18 years ago, and it's a local hospital for predominantly the local Balinese. So, like I said, they did some amazing things there for us all, but they weren't prepared for the enormity of what took place. And for most of us, they didn't have enough dressing to dress the wounds. So the wounds lay open and exposed to infection, and that became the biggest issue for everyone involved.
Jace, we were talking, myself and Kingy, before the show today. We were talking about you and we were talking about the events, and I said to him, you know what, I was in Bali in January. I went to the Bali bombing memorial, and Kingy said, well, actually, I was over there recently and I went along to it as well. And I immediately thought of you and
Yep.
Mick Martin, and I thought, God, have a look at this place. Would have been amazing. Is it something that you continue to think about? Does it pop into your head? Do you actually wake up sometimes thinking, oh, I've just been thinking about this? How has it played out in your life mentally?
No, it's a great question, Robbo. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, it's not something I find myself drifting back to that often. And I've got no doubt it's through the football and, the experience of coming back and playing. You're regularly talking to your teammates about it. Then beyond that, since the playing days, you're regularly speaking about it, whether it be schools or corporately. And then obviously ended up writing, once I come back and played that game, Jess Slattery talked me into writing a book about it. So it feels like the ability to, and it's at the right time, and everyone does things differently. But for me, just talking about it so much, it gave me a little bit of control back over the situation. It's
Yep.
something that doesn't control me, and I did spend a lot of time with a mate who was a counsellor too, and that paid enormous dividends. So yeah, it's a funny one because one day maybe there may be something, but at this point in time, it hasn't been something that's you find yourself drifting back to, or waking up in the middle of the night thinking about it.
How far out did you know you were only going to come back and play one game at AFL level? And I guess on reflection, how important was it in your overall story to actually achieve that?
Yeah, Hutto, my ambition all the way was to get back and continue on playing. It was probably about 4 weeks before ultimately I got selected to play. I just came to the realisation I couldn't keep doing it. And it was all off the back of a very minor calf injury that I sustained in a VFL game. Our affiliate at the Kangas at the time in the VFL was Port Melbourne, Kingy's old club. So just playing down there, injured a calf, which was part to do with some shrapnel wounds I had in my lower legs. And I just thought it was at that time, I was nearly about to throw it all away that Sunday night when I came home. And I had some great support from my wife, Narissa, and Glenn Archer, I think, and Anthony Stevens rang me straight away, and my mate from Perth and Peter Hughes, who was in Bali with me, and talked me out of it and hang in there. But in the next week or so, whilst I didn't play, I was doing a lot of training, and it was just that light bulb moment, how fresh I really felt and how much I understood that probably with these burn injuries, it was going to be at least another couple of years of healing. So that 4 weeks out from that game, I knew in my own mind that whenever it was I played, it would only be the one game, unfortunately.
Jason, I don't want to get too personal here, but it may drift down, and I want to proceed by saying well done for being named head of football at GWS. It's a really important job. It's a big role. I think I watched you play football, and I knew a little bit about you, young tearaway in life, thinking, like everyone is running through life, thinking, what's next? What are we doing? Rah, rah, rah.
Yep.
How much did it mature you, the events, and how much did that event, help put you in a position that you are today as general manager of an AFL football club?
Yeah, Robert, it certainly did. I think it was part event and part the age that I was at in my life. And I was 28, nearly 29 when it all happened. So you get to that stage and you described it well. I was it's fair to say, a rat bag, a tearaway and a risk taker. So, and that's how you live life and how you played. So when something like that happens and at that age in your life where Narissa and I were about to get married and settle down, obviously, once I said before, when everything's almost taken from you, and not only football but your life, it puts everything into perspective, and it does make you really want to knuckle down and make the most of your second opportunity. And football has been my life, and I was very fortunate after retiring, doing a number of different roles, but one of them was in at the AFL, and it just gave me a wonderful grounding and consolidated in my mind the direction I really wanted to go. And that's I'm very privileged to find myself in the position I am today as a general manager of football.
It's Dean Laidley's first year of coaching. So in 03, so round 6 was the Carey return match we just talked to Arch about, and round 11 was this match. So an unbelievable start to Dean's coaching. I think when you sort of see the story and you're involved in the story, you sometimes lose sight of how big it actually is. Yep. Jason, can you take us to the point of just the pre-match? That couple of days leading up to that round 11 game. How much contact you'd had with people that you were the head of the cause, if you like, that you can get on with your life, you can get back to where you'd once been. I mean, I was blown away with the amount of those that were individually or personally affected by the Bali bombings and the family of those that were either not with us or had suffered some really tragic times. Can you tell us about that couple of days prior?
Yeah, Dave, look, it was a big couple of days, and we were really conscious. I was working really closely with the footy club at North Melbourne to make sure that we were able to pay our respects and honour so many people in a way. So there was a lot of organisation behind the scenes there, and the club were great. That not that I got to see it being in the rooms before the game, but there was a ceremony held on the ground that represented, just if we talk in sporting terms, AFL clubs at all different levels across the country. Were out on the ground that were impacted by what happened in Bali, and also I think there might have been some representations from other codes. So, there was a lot of people there. There's no doubt about it, and it just once again shows the impact that sport can have when a situation is pretty dire. The power of sport. So, a lot went on behind the scenes, and I'm really grateful for the support the club gave me all the way through. But allowing both the footy club and the AFL to put something to represent so many people who've been hurting so much on that night.
Can you tell us about the moment, the footballing moment, the human emotion moment? Duncan Kellaway's just all over your back. You've arched your back. You've taken a chest mark and you slowly fall to the ground with the weight of Duncan on you.
Yeah.
And you'd built up to trying to play a game of league footy again. And in that moment, you just want one kick, I would imagine.
Yeah.
You want one touch. Be in the moment when you mark the ball, and between then and falling to the ground, did it think to yourself? Did you think to yourself, I've done it. I'm back. This is the moment my life has been for.
It was, you built it up really well, Derm. The only thing you missed was David King actually kicked it to me, the bloke alongside you. So
I was having a shot.
from 80, as you usually do. Look, Derm, but look, it all happened so quickly. You get your body in front. Like, I'd played a little bit forward, but predominantly my AFL career as a defender. And I've been cruising around at centre half back for Port Melbourne, picking and choosing when I wanted to get involved and playing well at that level. But this was a massive step up. And, body in front, read the flight, drop a ball, and just, relief. I've marked it. But then the fear of the set shot, because I wore the gloves because my hands were a mess and I had the garments on both arms,
That's
both
right.
legs and the hands, and the garments were really slippery. Now, I remember in the warm-up, I tried a new pair of gloves on, and they're fantastic for marking, but they were just too much grip on them to kick, and I knew I'd probably play forward. So I went with the old warning gloves, but you were just, all I was fearful of was that I could get the ball drop right and it wouldn't stick too much. But I knew as soon as I hit the boot, I connected well. And, I was pretty relieved that went through, that's for sure.
I don't know if you saw Robbo last week, but he had those gloves on last week, didn't you, Robbo?
Yeah, kind of. You're right. He did slip over. It was a magnificent moment, Jason, and I don't know if the word's proud, but I think everyone in football was so happy.
Now, Mark,
you.
I was proud to be Australian watching that, and we were commentating, Bomber.
Yeah, that's
Jason.
right.
Yeah, there was Gary Lyon, myself, Dennis, and Eddie. It made me proud to be Australian.
Okay, I agree.
Yeah.
I was just happy, proud. It was just a beautiful moment, one of the most beautiful moments in football. Well, now we're going to get on to some modern
Robbo,
day.
before you get on to the moment, I'll just pick up for anyone who might be listening. Dermot's called me Bomber. That was my nickname at Collingwood, so no one take offence to that. So I was a Mad Keen Essendon supporter growing up, so nothing to do with anything else, but just an old nickname.